Welcome to the Coaching Gold podcast, where real coaches share real impact so you can find the one that's right for you. I'm Dr. Rudy Jackson. I'm one of the co-hosts of this new podcast, along with my friend and colleague, Mr. Dorian Cunion. Today, Dorian's going to serve as our first guest. And so we're going to talk about building trust, and we're super excited to be here. First of all, I want you to introduce yourself to our listeners, and then we'll get to our first question.
All right, sounds good. Well, my name is Dorian Cunion. I'm an executive coach and small business consultant. I've been coaching for about 3 years. I entered coaching after a 21-year career with 7-Eleven, and I primarily work with small business owners and then also business professionals that are looking to level up their leadership and to advance their careers.
That's great. That's great. Well, I know you got a lot of good experience and some good strategies for our listeners. So we're going to start with our very first question, which is what led you to become a coach?
Well, I enjoy that question. And a lot of times when I'm doing discovery calls with clients, that's something that they'll ask. When I was with 7-Eleven, I had the opportunity of having an executive coach. And it's one of those things that I wish that I would have paid for coaching prior, because working with that individual, he really challenged me to define like what was my definition of leadership, to define like the type of leader that I wanted to be. And when you're growing your career, it's really challenging sometimes to really like figure out what does it mean to be authentic and what does it mean to be the best version of yourself. So because I had such a good experience with him, when I left 7-Eleven and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my career, I realized that I wanted to be that person for other people. Over the course of my career, I've loved helping people figure out their career goals, improve their business success. So this allows me to do what I feel I'm really talented at, which is helping other people grow as leaders and to improve their business acumen.
Well, that sounds great because it sounds like your experience being on the other side of the coaching relationship really has driven you towards becoming a coach, has motivated you. And that kind of leads us into the next question about, how has becoming a coach actually changed the way you look at the world?
Well, it's changed me a lot. When I did the coaching training, I thought that it was just a check in the box type thing that I had to do in order to get clients. And the reality is that as good as of a leader that I thought I was, I had a lot of opportunities around improving my listening skills and really giving people the room for self-discovery. Intuitively, I've always believed that people perform at a higher level when they come up with their own ideas and they're focusing within their strengths. But through my coaching journey, I've really been able to really see that when you can ask somebody the right questions and help them kind of self-discover what they should be doing and what their strengths are, they have a lot more motivation, they have a lot more conviction, and they really start to do the things that are going to be most beneficial for themselves.
Wow. I mean, you're speaking directly to that kind of power of self-discovery and then going out and making the change that's necessary for them to achieve their goal. Does that relate to the specific impact you're trying to strive through making through the coaching that you engage in?
Yeah, my coaching, I work with a couple of different segments of clients. I work with some people that are in career transition and they're trying to figure out how to find their next job. And with those individuals, the ability to help people just learn their story and communicate their story is just super impactful. I find that a lot of people have more skills than what they give themselves credit for, and they're actually a lot stronger in things than what they know. So through the coaching process and helping people with like reflection and self-discovery, it helps to build their confidence so that they can be more effective. Now, when we get into coaching individuals from a business perspective, it's very much the same. It's just the application's a little bit different. A lot of times when you're running a business, you have to take care of yourself. You got to take care of your team. So I really help people to become more cognizant of, how I show up impacts those around me. And if I really want to be intentional about driving my business forward, I need to master myself and master my emotions and my intentions and things like that, but then also be able to teach other people how do they find their strengths, how do they communicate better, how do they make the most impact, because when you can help individuals be successful, they tend to help you be successful.
I'd agree 100%. And that background perspective on who you are as a coach and what you're bringing and the impact that you're trying to make really sets us up to dive into today's topic around building trust. So I really appreciate you sharing that with our listeners. But we want to get into the topic today of building trust. So, how do you help clients build trust?
Well, trust is one of those things that I think is absolutely essential if you're going to have success with an organization. As I go through my discovery call with clients, one of the things that I tell them, the first thing that we're going to do is establish some trust because they need to feel comfortable with me being vulnerable, sharing with me what their goals are, what their fears are, because the better that I understand who they are and what their challenges are, the more that I can support them and help them achieve their goals. That goes right into helping people just kind of achieve their goals because the reality is none of us can achieve what we're looking to achieve on our own. So the coaching process actually role models an approach that you can use to build collaboration and partnership with others. Whether you're looking for a job or you're looking to be more impactful within your career, having the ability to get to know people, understand what their goals are, create some safety where there's some trust is going to enable you to work with those individuals and be able to accomplish some shared goals.
Yeah, well, I really see the value in you putting trust at the forefront, not only as a kind of abstract concept, but a model for how we have this relationship and then how they can then go out and practice that moving forward. And, you mentioned a little earlier about folks really knowing a little more than they may really give them credit for. And so that kind of leads us to this notion of, do you wish more people knew about building trust?
When it comes to building trust, I wish that more people just understood that it really is the starting point for any type of successful collaboration. A lot of times when I'm talking with business owners, they're complaining about an employee that's not living up to expectations. And when we start peeling back the onion, sometimes there's some miscommunication around what's the definition of success. And it's like if there's not clarity there, then we need to kind of define what success looks like. But once we have some alignment as far as like this is what the employee's role is, this is what success looks like, then a lot of the breakdowns come from either the employee not trusting the owner enough to say, hey, I need some additional help, or I don't have everything I need to be successful, or the owner actually getting in the employee's way because they don't trust the employee enough to do their job. So, really trying to connect the dots that if you are having a performance issue, looking at trust first and just making sure that there's good communication and collaboration that, just time after time, I find that if you can focus on improving the trust, the answers come, pretty quickly after that.
Okay. Well, as you're working with your clients and you're encouraging them to kind of put trust first, what is one of the things that people can do kind of this week to get better at building trust?
Well, I think that if you were trying to figure out how to build some trust with somebody around you, setting aside a little bit of extra time to just get to know them. The reality is that a lot of us are on virtual calls. You're moving really quickly, and you don't always have the time to just check in and just understand what's going on with people. The little subtleties of human interaction are, kind of the bedrock of trust. And you taking a little bit of extra time to not just casually say, how are you doing, but like legitimately, hey, how are things going? How's the family? What's going well in your world right now? Opening up some space so that you can really get to know the people that you're working with and really try to connect with them on a human level is going to start the seeds for improving trust. Trust is not something that is built overnight. It takes some time. You have to be consistent. But if you can start from a relationship standpoint, which is getting to know people and like creating some communication, you're going to be moving yourself closer to trust.
That's great. They definitely can start with that this week. One of the things that we'll be doing on the podcast is giving our coaches who are coming in as guests the opportunity to ask questions of us as hosts. And so, this is going to be your chance to kind of open up, whether it's a question for me specifically about building trust, or maybe just one of those questions that people don't ask very often, where, we're interacting with folks all the time, but it's one of those things that it's important, but we don't ask a lot. What's that one question you would put out there about trust for our audience?
So I'm gonna try to give you a hard one. When trust has been violated, because that happens. You make a commitment and you're not able to honor the commitment, and that erodes trust. What guidance would you give someone that has been in a situation where they've made a mistake, where they know that they negatively impacted somebody that they care about, and what's something that they can do to try to help repair and rebuild the trust after something like that happens?
That's a great question, not only because of the impact it has, but because of the frequency it happens. Because we like to believe that we don't break the trust of others, but many times we do, either intentionally or unintentionally. But one of the very first things is what you have to bring to that conversation is some awareness, because many times folks don't have the awareness, and that means you have to be attentive to the people on your team to notice what they're saying and what they're not saying. And so making sure that you are assuming that even with your best intentions, you can break someone's trust intentionally or unintentionally, and that you're going to prioritize making that something that you attend to as quickly as possible. So becoming aware and then bringing up the issue, because one of the things we tend to do is with those tough conversations, many times we delay those, and we don't want to address it because it's a difficult conversation. And so to try to not just nip it in the bud per se, but to address it early so it doesn't fester. That's one of the things that I think you and I see happens most frequently, is that folks let things fester and they know they need to attend to it, but they allow other things to be a higher priority. And really, there's really no other thing on your team more important than trust. And so you can't deprioritize trust. And so being aware, prioritizing, and then bringing the issue up with some humility. And that allows you to model that we're all going to make mistakes, but maybe even more importantly, that you want there to be a culture of asking for help and admitting that you have made a mistake or that you have violated someone's trust. And if you are a leader on a team or just a team member, being able to model that reinforces the culture that you aspire to. And so I think that the advice that I try to give folks is, as you're aware, as you prioritize, most important, the next step is to make sure that you address that with some humility and then model that, hey, I can be in error. I want to rectify, and I want to listen to not only me just saying, oh, okay, hey, I admit that I did something wrong, but I want to listen to your response to that, how that may have affected you, and then to talk about how we want to move forward. And so those are the four things that I think are most important, that again really can be diluted because of sometimes the emotions that are attached to the violation of trust, and then sometimes even the status that we put towards maybe being in a leadership position, and we may have brought into some belief system that we're not supposed to do certain things, or not supposed to admit that we're wrong, or we're not supposed to apologize to someone who is at a lower level on our team. All those things can contribute to us being resistant to doing the things that we know in our heart we should do because they're the right things and they're the right things for our team. And so those are the things that I not only try to give as advice, I try to do because they're as hard for me as they are for anyone else. And so I love that you have given the tough question, those softballs on
Yeah.
Coaching Gold podcast.
And, coaching is all about, self-reflection and asking those challenging questions, because the reality is that you interact with people all the time in like casual, like real surface level things. And if I'm not asking you a question that pushes you or challenges you, then I'm probably not the right coach for you, because you probably have some people that are in your network that are giving you what you need. So I really appreciate your answer, specifically around that whole humility part. And then also creating the space, because the reality is that as a leader, you got to role model what you expect from the people around you. So if you make a mistake, you want those around you to admit that they made a mistake, and then you want to provide an opportunity for like repair and for healing. So having the courage to have those conversations and understanding that there's no good type of festering, that moving quickly on that is going to be the best thing, is really going to help you to, start to rebuild that relationship.
Yeah, certainly, certainly. Well, one of the last things we're going to do in our podcast is we're going to try to help potential clients, folks who may be in managers or leadership positions, who are interested in purchasing services from an executive coach or business coach or even a life coach, giving them some insight into what that looks like. And so our last two questions are geared for that. And so the first part of it is around what we talk about as like coaching bookends, meaning that how you enter into a coaching relationship and then how you can anticipate in the future exiting that relationship and what you may have from that relationship. And so one of the last things we want to look at is what's the one thing that your clients get right at the beginning of coaching?
Well, I think the biggest thing that people get right is being vulnerable enough to like seek help. The reality is that to say I need somebody else to help me with gaining a new perspective or to help me with holding accountability, that's a bold step. And I find that those individuals that are ready to do that and then also ready to pay to do that are typically very committed to success. I've been blown away. I have a client that I've been working with for about 2 months, and she reached out to me looking to change jobs. And she just contacted me this week. She got an offer that was about 20,000 more than what she anticipated. And I love working with individuals like that because I saw a lot of potential with her when she reached out to me. I gave her some simple things that she could execute, but she had to do all the work. I can have the best strategy of the world. I can have all this experience, but if the client isn't engaged, if they're not motivated to take what I'm giving them and run with it, then they're not going to have success. So those individuals that are serious about like, I want to work with a coach, and they do their due diligence and they find the right coach for them, those are the ones that tend to have the most success.
Well, that begins the front end of our bookend. And then on the back end, what's the one thing that your clients take away from the coaching experience?
One of the things that I hope that my clients walk away with is a belief in themselves. When I went through the coactive training model, one of the kind of foundational things is that people are naturally gifted and whole. And a lot of times, like life has a way of getting us to lose confidence in ourselves or to believe that we need to look outside for the answers. And you do need to look outside for new ideas and for mentorship and things like that. But I tell all of my clients, 90% of what you need, you already have. So what I try to teach people is look inside, tap into your values, tap into your strengths, tap into your experiences, because you have a lot of wisdom and you probably know what you should be able to do if you can trust yourself. And then, have the courage and have the network around you where if there's some additional learning that you need, if there's a different perspective that you need, that you can tap into those people around you. So that's really what I try to help people kind of walk away with, is a better clarity of who they are and how strong that they are. And then also the awareness that they can surround themselves, and they probably already have some good people around them that care about them and can help them achieve their goals.
That's great. That's great. Well, it has been probably the best launch I've ever been a part of for a podcast, and I've been a part of a few. But the one thing that we don't want to do is leave before we help people understand how they can get connected. And so I want to give you an opportunity to share information about your business or ways in which folks can contact you, because I'm sure after listening to all of your background, all of your experience and what you bring to the table, I'm sure there's going to be some listeners that are going to want to reach out to you. So go ahead and share that information.
And I'll just share that I consider myself like a holistic coach, meaning that I can help people both from a career standpoint or a business standpoint, because at the end of the day, my focus is on helping individuals better understand what their values are, what their skills are, and to get clarity as far as what they want to accomplish. Once we have those things, we can develop a plan where we test and learn and make progress towards the goal. As far as my training, I've done a lot of research and done a lot of training around ADHD. This has been a focus because I work with a lot of small business owners, and small business owners over index in having ADHD. In addition, just the way that we're all distracted, even if you don't have ADHD, you probably have some ADHD tendencies. And I find that a lot of the best practices and things that I use with my ADHD clients work for people in general that are feeling overwhelmed, stressed, or having anxiety. So if you'd be interested in learning more about me and my coaching approach, you can visit Your Path Executive Solutions. That's www.yourpathexecutivesolutions. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I have a pretty distinct name, Dorian Cunion. If you search for me, you can connect with me. I have a bunch of different resources out there. I'm on YouTube. I have blogs. I have a lot of different free content because I believe knowledge shouldn't be the barrier to success. So try to find me on social media. Check out my website. Reach out to me. Whether you work with me directly or not, I'm always into establishing relationships and adding values. Reach out. I look forward to hearing from you.
That's great. That's great. I'm sure folks are going to be reaching out, and I feel the exact same way. We spend a good bit of time on LinkedIn because it's the type of social media community that kind of fits business-minded folks. And we not only are there just to connect, but we're there to support one another, to share resources. And so, as you know, lots of folks come and visit our Power Six Leader website or site on LinkedIn, but folks can also reach out to me directly at Rudy Jackson on LinkedIn.com. And so we are looking forward to not only this launch, but every Monday we will have content with a new guest coach who will be sharing their perspectives, their experiences, so that our audience can make a good informed decision. And that's our purpose here as a podcast. We thank you for being here. Come join us every Monday. Have a great day. This is the Coaching Gold Podcast, where real coaches share real impact so you can find the one that's right for you.